So hi folks, got an absolutely fantastic guest on here, very well known, former member of the European Parliament, ex-UKIP, a military career from 77 to 96, a major in the army, and a really interesting man. Nigel Farage quoted and said that you were old-fashioned. Are you old-fashioned, Godfrey Bloom? Are you old-fashioned?
Hopelessly old-fashioned, I think he meant to say.
Tell us what you thought about the local elections. Do you think this is a complete breakthrough now for Farage and reform?
Well, it's certainly an electoral breakthrough in terms of numbers, and there's no shadow of doubt about that. But of course, here comes the same old question mark. What does the leadership actually say? What do they mean? So we had only what was it, 4 or 5 weeks ago, that there's nothing we can do about these illegal immigrants at all. There's nothing we can do. And then 2 weeks later, of course, I think Nigel realised that was just about the worst thing he could possibly have said. So people were saying, what do you stand for? And now he stands four square, it seems to me, for nothing in particular. So is he going to send people back? Is he going to round them up? Is he going to do this? None of us yet know. We knew what Rupert Lowe wanted.
Yes, we did.
So he was slung out pretty quick. So consequently, you never quite know what the reform leadership really means. So yes, it's an electoral breakthrough. Yes, I'm very glad to see the other parties getting a drubbing. But is it absolutely long-term good news? I don't know, and I don't know anybody else who does know.
What's your opinion then of Nigel Farage? Because obviously you've known him over the years. I mean, is he? Some people say he's like a sort of dictator. Is he an egotist? Well, what's he like as a person?
Well, before 2010, before the nasty air accident, he was very good company and great fun.
Right.
Now, when he had the air accident in 2010, he did change, in my view, and I knew him better than most people. We shared a flat. We were friends for 20 years. So then he changed. He became sort of slightly paranoid. He became slightly dogmatic, well, very dogmatic in these matters. And of course, if you list the people that actually got kicked out of UKIP or Brexit and all the rest of it, they number now nearly 60 or 70 quite articulate, serious people. You know, I mean, Rupert Lowe was just one of a great number.
Yes.
If you look at the days of UKIP, it was the same. Bear in mind, in UKIP, the elected in 2009 were 14 or 15 UKIP MEPs. And after 4 years, only 5 retained the whip. Now, you've got to ask yourself, how could that be? Why is that? And of course, if you are in a small party, and as UKIP was, quite a number of votes, good votes, it was doing well, you've got to have somebody who's going to actually produce a leadership team, a shadow front bench. And it's the same situation now with reform. Who is the shadow front bench? And Nigel said only the other day, how can I have a shadow front bench with only 5 or 6 MPs? And of course, the answer to that is, don't imagine they have to be MPs at the moment. Give us your shadow front bench from people who would be very good. And this is the mistake that was made in UKIP. Give you an example of this. We had a very articulate young surgeon in Edinburgh who could have been an NHS spokesman. And he would have run rings around people like Andrew Neil, which incidentally wasn't as difficult as a lot of people thought. I know, because I've done it. But so these are the things. And we had a recently retired full captain Royal Navy who just retired, who was a keen UKIP supporter. He could have been defence or certainly Admiralty spokesman, for example. But Nigel tried to select everybody just from MPs. And I'm sorry to say that many of the MPs were what one might call van ordinaire. And they weren't up to it, to be frank. I'm not suggesting they weren't nice fellas, but they weren't up to that kind of thing. And the one thing that political commentators hate on television, Laura Cheeseburger and all the rest of them, who really aren't frankly very bright or very well informed, just very highly paid, they're not to rock the boat. And if you want to get somewhere with them, you have to put somebody in front of them who really, really knows their stuff. You know, not amateur night.
Yes.
And it's more important for a small party than a big party. Because if you've got a big conservative rosette, you know, people take you more seriously because you've got a big blue rosette. And actually, of course, you're a complete prat, as we now know, and we've seen all this. So that's the problem that we have. And we could have put really top people in. But of course, it was everybody said, well, yeah, we're all going to vote for, you know, we're going to vote for UKIP in the elections for the European Parliament, but not for a general election because they don't have a team. You know, they, apart from Brexit, what are their policies? And now it's the same thing with reform is, yeah, what are their policies? You know, I mean, that we've just had a new mayor elected in East Yorkshire, where I live, not there at the moment, but East Yorkshire, where I live, who's a socialist. He seems to be quite a nice guy. I haven't met him, but he's a socialist. You know, but he's nationalising the buses and all sorts of stuff. He's not on reform message at all. And then we find that you get other people coming into reform. I mean, there was that Plummer fellow who was totally anti-Brexit. I can't remember his bloody name. Plummer, a very rich plumber.
Yes, with the hair and the
yeah, that's right. He was now invited to come into reform, and even he was surprised by Nigel. Yeah. And of course, who is the chairman of reform? Who is the chairman of reform? An ex-Goldman Sachs man. The one thing you don't want, believe me, I spent years in the city. You don't want an ex-Goldman Sachs man, Frody. He'll nick the spoons as soon as he gets an opportunity.
You said a really interesting thing that you shared a flat with Nigel for a period of time. So you've got a huge insight then. I mean, what was he like in the morning? Did he get up early? Did he like a cup of tea? Well, what was he like as a person?
He was always up at Sparrow's Farm. He was a worker.
Yes.
Oh, he's a hard worker.
Was he irritating? Was he interesting to be with? What kind
No, he's a fun guy, likes a pint, likes a sherbet. He's quite a keen military historian himself. So, yeah, lots of things, lots of boxes ticked. But he isn't a natural leader. He's a maverick. He's an individual. Now, most people aren't natural leaders. If you, in the army, if you have some ability, some leadership ability, that Sandhurst will bring it out, or Dartmouth will bring it out, or Royal Air Force Cranwell will bring it out. They will polish it up. Most people aren't natural leaders. But you can only be a leader if you lead from the front and you empathize. And this is what you need to do. Nigel hasn't empathized with anybody since he fell out of the womb. It's about Nigel. And it's about nobody else. And as soon as you get somebody who's a forceful personality like Rupert Lowe, who's an informed man, who's an articulate man, he has to go, doesn't he? There isn't room for two.
Was he set up, Rupert Lowe, or is it legitimate?
I don't know what's going on the inside of it, but I do know one thing. If you are articulate and popular, you will go sooner or later, as I did myself. But I tell you, he'll be the next to go.
Are you sorry to interrupt? Do you still stay in touch? And does he ever listen to any of your advice?
No, he doesn't listen to anybody's advice. Bless him. Doesn't do advice. He doesn't do advice. I tell you who else. I'll make a prediction on your channel, Liam. Dame Andrea Jenkyns will be gone in a year. I know her. I sat next to her. She's very articulate. She's highly opinionated, and she oozes common sense and pragmatism. She'll be gone in 12 months.
Well, you heard it here, folks. That's really interesting. What about the whole UKIP thing? They've got a new leader now in Nick Tenconi, who I've had a chat with recently. Do you think there's any point now in UKIP, or should all those sort of to the right parties merge?
Well, yes, they should. The trouble is small parties all have this ego problem. insofar as the leader of all small parties have very disproportionate egos. It's nice to be the boss. It's nice to be a big fish in a small pond. And this is true of all politicians, of course, who are fundamentally sociopaths. You won't find a single successful politician who isn't basically a sociopath. They have no empathy with other people. They don't care about other people. And what other profession is your colleague your enemy? Only in politics. Now, when I took over a squadron many years ago, you want the best corporals, the best sergeants, the best junior officers you can get to stop you making a goat of yourself. You know, so you've got to know when to take a bit of advice. And I'll give you an example on that. I was moving the squadron in Germany into a location, and if the sergeant doesn't like you, or the staff sergeant or the WO doesn't like you, he'll let you move it into a field where they sink to their axles. And some officers' squadrons sank to their axles,
right,
because they all had a good titter behind his back. Whereas I got a team round me and I supported them and they supported me. I wouldn't put the squadron in there, sir.
No,
I wouldn't put the squadron in there. Where would you put it then? I said, over there, sir. And I go, right.
What were you like as a major? Did your men like you? Did they support you? And did you feel comfortable in that position?
Yes, but only because I had such a good team. My sergeant major died just last month, and it was a great shame. I'm still in touch. Well, I still get Christmas cards from my NCOs.
Oh, well, that's good.
I don't get many Christmas cards from my brother officers, I'm sad to say.
What do you think the army has sort of demasculated now? Do you think it's gone downhill now since when you were there?
In the 80s, in the 1980s, we were hearing phraseology like man management, not leadership, man management. It came from America, man management. And so consequently, the emphasis even then was more on, matters personnel rather than old-fashioned leadership, gung-ho over the top, which is what soldiers are looking for, leadership.
Yes.
They don't want somebody who feels your pain. When I was at Sandhurst, it was quite funny because one of the instructors said, there will be times when you want to burst into tears. Now, what you do, there's nothing you can do about it. Go behind a tree and burst into tears. Otherwise, it'll upset the men.
Were you serving while the Falklands was going on? Were you involved in that?
Yes. Well, now here's a funny thing. I was the year before the Falklands, so 1981. I was a captain in logistics.
Right.
And I was at Grantham, which was the school of logistics, or one of the schools of logistics. And I was working out how you actually loaded and unloaded the Galahad, the supply ship, the Galahad.
Yes.
And of course, one of the first things that we learned was, as I was, trying to pass this damn course, was the first thing you did. Okay, you needed to know where to load them, how to load them, and what order to load them in. It was a bit complicated for my tiny brain. But the one thing I did bloody understand was as soon as you got to land stuff, you got the buggers off the boat absolutely as soon as you could. As soon as you could. Because the threat from the air, you've got the whole, and it was the Welsh Guards all sealed up in that boat for hours and hours and hours when they should be getting ashore. Had I been in charge, if I'd been the, whoever was in the charge, the minister of whatever it is, or even the Prime Minister, even Maggie Thatcher, I would have the officers responsible for that shot.
Yeah.
I mean, that was just pure murder because they were stupid, unbelievably stupid. And I gather, dog in the manger, when somebody, a junior officer, came up and said, for God's sake, get these people off. He said, I'm not going to be told what to do by anybody, and blah, blah. And there was no serious inquiry, and there should have been a court-martial. But of course, politically, it was unacceptable to have any bad news about it. There was enough bad news in casualties, 250 plus, and lots of people maimed and injured, without actually going down that rabbit hole. Incidentally, I'm very, very anti-war, but I wasn't anti that war. You cannot have Johnny Foreigner landing on a crown colony with a Union Jack flying over it and strutting about, damned impertinence. He had to be kicked off, and we kicked him off. I was all in favour in that. So it was all round. It was a jolly good show, but there were some mistakes made.
Were you a fan of Maggie there? Were you really behind her?
I was on that subject, yes. I was on that one whole, as indeed I would suspect the whole country, with the exception perhaps of the BBC, was behind her.
Now, changing the subject totally, now we've got the wonderful Keir Starmer as Prime Minister. What's been your sum up of his time in charge since he's been holding the reins?
Well, he's a classic sociopath. He even as soon as he had this disastrous local election result, disastrous, his first comment was, "I get it." He clearly didn't get it, did he? He'd learnt nothing from it at all. He didn't go, "Oh God, haven't I made a bollocks of this?"
Yeah.
He pretended that I get it. In fact, I thought he was going to say, "I engineered this defeat." I engineered it personally. And it would have been more of a disaster, of course, if he hadn't cancelled the elections in other parts of the country. It would have been a national sweep. But one has to remember that this is because everybody hates the Labour Party and everybody hates the Conservative Party. The turnout was only 37%. So apathy was still the biggest winner of the day. Whether that will translate in the next 3 years into forming a government, well, I simply don't think so. The Conservative Party have a habit of getting their act together. Mm-hmm. But they've got a long way to go because they've also got a lot of terrible backbenchers who are all socialists who should have been in the Labour Party. Now, I can tell you what they should do if they'd like to listen to me, because I'm nearly always right about these things, which, of course, is why I've got no friends. But what they ought to do...
You're popular, though.
Popular. They should say, we're going to let the local constituency parties select the MPs.
Yes.
So it'll be the local committee, not Smith Square. This is a mistake they made. They parachuted people in who were left-wing, Cameronites and things like that, or, Doris May or whatever her name is, all those sort of people. They weren't Conservatives at all. So what they should do is leave it to the constituency parties to say, Freddie's been here for years. He's a staunch Conservative. He's a local lawyer or butcher or baker or candlestick maker, and he knows how many beans make 5. And he's a good, solid, pragmatic sort of character. And what we need is at least 300 or 400 of those bastards in Parliament, not the sort of muppets that we get at the moment. There's hardly a single artisan in Parliament. There's not a chippy, a bricky, a sparky. There's none of them. None of them. They were all at Oxford reading nonsense, PPC or whatever it's called, and on the piss for the whole time, weren't they? Dressed up in monkey jackets. I mean, really.
Why is it you touched on something there where you said the electorate are so apathetic? Why are we so apathetic in this country? What is the matter with us? You've got the French burning everything down and spraying manure on everything, but the Brits, when we've got one of the most hated prime minister in all-time record, still only 30% of people turn up at the ballot box. Well, why is that?
I think they've just given up on the democratic system. I think that's the fundamental problem that we have. And if you think about it, for an entire generation, 2 generations, you might argue, you vote red or blue, and they're all ghastly. And it's the same in North America. You vote red or blue. That's not democracy. It's not the idea of democracy. Mm-hmm. And if you go back to Athens, when the whole concept of democracy was formed, I love the American expression, you have to have skin in the game. Mm. None of our politicians have skin in the game. Mm. They just don't. So they just leave and go to merchant banks, or they leave and go to the WEF, or they do stuff that, they just don't have any. So it doesn't matter who you vote for. Mm. I mean, Cameron and Blair were sisters under the skin, weren't they? Yeah. They were exactly the same person. Yes. They had different coloured rosettes.
Yeah.
So people then go, what's the point in voting? And I have to say, they're right in many ways to say, what's the point? There is no point. And of course, when I was campaigning for Brexit via UKIP, and I was not actually on the stump, when we had the referendum, people were saying to me, at last, I'm going to vote this time. I haven't voted for years. It will make a difference because my vote will be counted.
Yes.
Because it's a referendum. Everything will be counted. And so it shot up to sort of 68% turnout, the highest, I think, ever. Higher than 1945, I think. So this is the fascinating thing. You have to say, if I vote for somebody, will it make a difference? Is it going to make a difference? And if it does, if they think it's going to, they will turn out. But it's still a pitifully low turnout. Pitifully low turnout. But then, of course, I would argue, and I would say this, it was I'm having a go, don't mean to have a go. Just 2 weeks before the election was the Reform saying, we're not going to kick anybody out because there's too many of them. They killed their own methods. There's only one point in voting Reform, is to get our country back. That's the only point. There is no other point. If you say, well, you know, what can you do? What can you do? Nobody's going to vote for you, are they?
I mean, Keir Starmer, for me, is just so awful. I mean, how do you feel about him? I mean, I just feel that everything that he's done, from the winter fuel allowance to the farmers, to the council tax going up, the electricity going up, the gas, everything that he says has been a complete lie. How do you feel about him?
Well, he is self-confessed World Economic Forum, and he made that very clear to that ghastly female who's on Newsnight, whose name I can't remember.
Another one.
Maitlis. I know her surname's Maitlis. Emily Maitlis, yes.
That's the
Billy No Mates. Anyway, he made it very clear that he wasn't interested in Parliament. He was only interested in Davos, which is the World Economic Forum. So he was clear. What you've got to give him credit where credit is due. He's honest. He's an honest charlatan. And then who's coming out in and out of number 10 Downing Street? Larry Fink. Bill Gates.
Bill Gates, yes.
All these people are coming in and out. So what does Bill Gates want? He's one of the biggest farming landowners in the world.
Yes.
So he goes in and says, I want to buy up British farms. How do you do that? Because they won't sell. Family farms won't sell to me. He says, well, I'll deal with that. I'll put 20% inheritance tax on their farms. And then they'll have to sell in a few years' time. And Bill Gates says, thank you very much. You know, these guys are up there, and we'll never find out who's actually paying for this. Go back to the Conservatives, why did Boris Johnson fly to Kiev in April 2022 to stop the peace treaty?
Yeah.
Who paid him? Who paid him to do that? And of course, it's now 500,000 young lives later. The man should be in The Hague.
Absolutely.
You know, he is an evil man, but he's good and he's fluffy and he looks bonhomie and all this is good. You know, this is a man who's responsible for mass murder. But of course, he still fumbles around and does this and does that, and it's good old Boris. He's an evil bastard.
Now, can I ask you, because I love the fact that you're very passionate and you're so outspoken about it, and to be honest, I agree with absolutely everything you say. Are you worried about the whole free speech scenario in this country? Because obviously we've had people banged up for hurty words and this, that, and the other. Do you ever think that the police might knock on your door? Have you ever had any of that to you? Has anybody turned up and said, "Oh, look, we really, Godfrey, don't like what you're saying"?
Yeah, the policeman had the impertinence come to my back door.
Really?
He had to go round the house and come through the back door, damned impertinence. And he said, we've had an anonymous complaint from somebody in Scotland about something that you posted on Twitter. So I said, quite straightforward, I said, well, look, be a good fellow and get off my land and go away or arrest me.
Yeah.
He said, well, I want you to come down to the station to make a statement. I said, you have two choices here. You can go away or you can arrest me. They're the only two things that you can do. And I'm trained in law. I do law exams years ago, admittedly. The law's changed a bit, obviously. But yeah, don't give me that kind of stuff. And I said, another thing too, I've got a hotshot lawyer who will mince you. He will mince you. So go away. And he went away. But the poor people, if you haven't got a lawyer, and they're badly advised by the court, by the court resident solicitor, if you plead guilty, it'd be easier. They'll go easier on you. That's why these people, poor people, are banged up. because they don't have hotshot lawyers. They don't bang people like me up.
So we've only got about 5 minutes left, and I really appreciate your time. A couple of other questions. Well, what did you think about the, and I don't know if it's your department really, the treatment of Tommy Robinson? Were you pro him? Were you against him? What did you think? Do you think he's been unfairly treated?
It's a civil offence, and he's been treated like a sort of mass murderer. Mm-hmm. And this is another mistake that Reform made. The people who were marching with the Union Jacks, and I knew some of them had gone down from Yorkshire, were good old-fashioned patriotic people. Mm-hmm. If you didn't want them to come to Reform, if you didn't want to be seen to respond, mm-hmm. all you needed to do was say nothing. Mm-hmm. Say nothing. Mm-hmm. But of course, they couldn't resist gobbing off, could they? Oh, absolutely. These people had nothing to do with us. These people were all Reform voters.
They were, all of them, all of them. Yeah.
To a man. But this shows you how stupid the leadership of all political parties are.
Absolutely.
And Reform is no exception.
Do you have, to sort of round this up, do you have any sort of regrets in your life? Things that you, I don't know, you've said that you've done. Would you have changed anything, Godfrey?
No, I'm in a very fortunate position, I have to say, where I wouldn't have changed a thing. We've got a small holding in Yorkshire. And I've been happily married for 40 years. We've got 2 Jack Russell Terriers, who sometimes I would shoot. But no, I'm a really happy little bunny. I'm still fit. I'm talking to you today from Cockermouth because we're climbing the fells. I'm on a book launch thing as well. But in the days I'm climbing the fells, I can still climb 2,000 feet. And I can still, this morning we did 12 miles. So I'm still in very good nick. So the answer to that is I'm very happy to say no, absolutely wouldn't have changed a thing. In fact, sometimes I think that God looks down upon me. Yeah. And he's saying, don't worry, I'm going to get you. It's been a breeze the last 75 years. But just when you're not looking, I'm going to creep up behind you with a cricket bat and I'm going to whack you around the head with it. Cricket bat, because we know God's an Englishman.
Absolutely. Now, for people maybe that are having a bad time, you see you're a very inspiring figure. What would you say to people who are having a bad time out there? You know, should they give up? Is there any hope? Have you got any advice for people that are not going through good times?
It's always very difficult, but the pragmatic advice I can give is look after yourself and your family first. Make sure you don't have anything in corrupt banks. Make sure you've got, a supply of tin food and stuff like that in the garage, and do your best and really just keep buggering on. Things in this country, we've seen bad times before. Things will turn around. I don't expect they will turn around in my lifetime, but they will turn around because they always have. But they will only turn around if we have somebody of the strength and depth and commitment of somebody like Oliver Cromwell, warts and all.
Now, Godfrey, do tell us about what books people can buy of yours, or where they can contact you, and what websites and everything, and what YouTube channel and everything.
Well, you'll find everything on my website, which is simple. It's just small case godfreybloom.uk.
Right.
And you will find fantastic words of wisdom on it. And not all mine, I have to say. There are people, I interview people, my old friends in the city. And of course, 18 months ago, I have a gold page. It's the most comprehensive gold page in the country. And I was advocating people to buy gold coins, sovereigns, 18 months ago, and take their money out of the bank. And of course, the price of those has doubled. So people have doubled their money if they took my advice. And if they took it when my first book came out in 2014, they would have tripled their money. But of course, it doesn't matter now because a pint of bitters are going to be 25 quid soon. So all you do is stand still, but don't have paper money. Get rid of paper money and have gold coin of the realm. And you'll be a lot happier if you spend more of your life pissed.
So thank you so much, Godfrey. Do folks follow him on YouTube and everything. He is truly, I would say, a national treasure. Thank you so much for your time, Godfrey. I really appreciate it, and lovely to meet you.
A great pleasure. Thank you for inviting me on.